production of Arsenic and Old Lace by Joseph Kellery. At this time, if you would please silence all cell phones and other distracting devices. Also, we would ask that you do not use any flash photography during this performance. The show is about to start, so sit back, relax, and enjoy the production. And thank you for coming.
Yes, indeed, Dr. Harper. It's really wonderful. You've really been able to take on the spirit of Brooklyn in only 2 short years.
Why, that is very gratifying, Miss Brewster.
Well, you see, living next to the church all our lives, we've seen so many ministers come and go. And the spirit of Brooklyn really is friendliness. And your sermons aren't so much sermons as friendly talks.
Personally, I've always enjoyed my talks with Cardinal Gibbons. Or, have I met him yet?
No, dear, not yet. How are the biscuits?
Bully!
Will you have another biscuit, Dr. Harper?
Oh, no thank you. I'm afraid I'll have no appetite for dinner now. You see, I always eat too many of your biscuits just to taste your lovely jam.
Oh, but you haven't tried the quince yet. We always put a little apple in with it just to take the tartness out.
No thank you.
Oh, we'll send you over the jar.
No, you keep it here. That way I'll be sure to have some of your biscuits with me.
I do hope they don't make us use that imitation flour again. I mean, with this war struggle. It may not be very charitable of me, but I've almost come to the conclusion that this Mr. Hitler isn't a Christian.
Why, yes. If only Europe were on another planet.
Europe, sir?
Yes, Teddy.
Point your gun the other way.
Gun?
Teddy!
To the west. There's your enemy. There's your danger. Japan.
Oh, why, yes, of course.
Teddy!
No, Aunt Abby. Not so much talk about Europe and more about the canal.
Well, let's not talk about war. Will you have another cup of tea, dear?
No, thank you, Aunt Abby.
Dr. Harper?
No, thank you. No, I must admit, Miss Abby, the war and violence seem far removed from these surroundings.
It is peaceful here, isn't it?
Yes, peaceful. Why, the virtues of another day. Why, they're all here in this house. The gentle virtues that went out with candlelight, low taxes, and good manners.
Well, it's one of the oldest houses in Brooklyn. It's just as it was when Grandfather Brewster built and furnished it, except for the electricity, and we try to use it as little as possible. Mortimer was the one who persuaded us to put it in.
Yes, I can understand that. I see your nephew Mortimer only runs by electric light.
Oh, the poor dear has to work so late. I understand he's taking Elaine with him to the theater again tonight. Teddy, your brother Mortimer will be here later.
Delighted.
We're so glad it's Elaine Mortimer takes to the theater with him.
Yes, well, I must admit, it's a new experience for me. Waiting up till 3 a.m. to be waiting for my daughter to be brought home.
Oh, I do hope you don't disapprove of Mortimer, Dr. Harper.
Well, I
We'd
just...
feel so guilty if you did, Sister Martha and I, seeing as it was here in our home that your daughter met Mortimer.
I know, Miss Abby, and so I'll say immediately that I believe Mortimer himself to be quite a worthy gentleman. But I have also watched the growing intimacy between him and my daughter with some trepidation. And for one reason, Miss Abby.
You mean his stomach, Dr. Harper?
Stomach?
His dyspepsia. He's so bothered with it. Poor boy.
No, Miss Abby. I'll be frank with you. I'm talking about your nephew's unfortunate connection with the theater.
The theater? But Mortimer writes for a New York newspaper.
I know, Miss Abby, but a dramatic critic is constantly exposed to the theater. And I don't doubt but would some develop an interest in it.
Well, not Mortimer. You need have no worry of that. Mortimer hates the theater.
Really?
Oh, yes. He writes terrible things about the theater. But you can't blame him, the poor boy. He was so happy writing about real estate, which he really knew something about. And then they made him change to this terrible night position.
My.
But, as Mortimer says, the theater can't last forever, and in the meantime, it's living. Yes, I think perhaps in a year or two it'll... Well, who could that be? No, thank you, Teddy. I'll go. Oh, come in, Mr. Brophy.
Hello, Miss Brewster.
How are you, Officer Klein?
Very well, Miss Brewster.
What news have you brought me? Colonel, we have nothing to report. Splendid. Thank you, gentlemen. At ease.
You know Dr. Harper?
Sure. Hello, Dr. Harper.
We've come for the toys for the Christmas fund.
Oh, yes.
Well, you know, that's splendid work you men do. Mixing up discarded toys to give poor children a happier Christmas.
Well, it gives us something to do when we have to sit around the station. You get tired of playing cards, and then you're cleaning your gun. Before you know it, you've shot yourself in the foot.
Teddy, would you run upstairs and get that big box from your Aunt Martha's room? How is Mrs. Brophy today? Mrs. Brophy has been quite ill, Dr. Harper.
Pneumonia.
Sorry to hear that.
Charge!
She's fine. A little weak still.
I'm going to get you some beef broth to take to her.
Don't bother, Miss Abby. You've done so much already.
when I received my call to Brooklyn and I moved next door, well, my wife wasn't well. And when she died, and for months before, well, if I know what pure kindness and absolute generosity are, it's because I've known the Brewster sisters.
Colonel, you promised not to do that. But I had to call a cabinet meeting to get a release of those supplies.
We used to do that in the middle of the night. Neighbors used to raise Cain with us. We're a little afraid of him anyways.
Well, he's quite harmless, though.
Well, suppose he does think he's Teddy Roosevelt. There's a lot worse people who could think he was.
Darn shame, though. A nice family like this hatching a cuckoo.
Well, I've heard that Teddy's father, the old girl's brother, was some sort of a genius. And Teddy's grandfather, the old girl's father, seems he was sort of crazy.
Yeah, he was crazy. Crazy like a fox. Made $1 million.
Really? You're in Brooklyn?
Yeah, Pad Medicine. Old Sergeant Edwards remembers him. Used to rent this place out as a clinic. Tried him out on people.
I hear he used to make mistakes occasionally, too.
Yeah, but we didn't bother him much. He was pretty useful on autopsies, especially poison cases.
Well, whatever he did, he sure left his daughters fixed for life. Thank God for that.
Not like they'd ever use any of them themselves.
Yes, I'm well acquainted with their charities.
You don't know the tenth of it. When I was with the Missing Persons Bureau, I was trying to trace an old man that I never did find. Did you know that there's a renting agency that has his house down on a list for furnished rooms? They don't rent the rooms out, but you can be sure that anyone who does come here looking for a room leaves with a good hot meal and probably a few dollars in their kit.
Yeah, it's just their way of digging up people to do some good.
Well, now, isn't this nice?
Hello, Miss Brewster.
Hello. Officer Brophy? Officer Klein? Dr. Harper?
How are you, Miss Brewster? We just dropped in to get the toys for the Christmas fund.
Oh, Teddy's Army and Navy. They were out. They're all packed upstairs.
Don't bother, Miss Brewster. Teddy's up there already. Seems the cabinet has to okay it.
Oh, of course. I hope Mrs. Brophy's doing better.
She's doing fine, ma'am. Your sister's in the back getting me some soup to take to her.
We made that this morning. I just took some to a poor man who broke ever so many bones. Oh, Martha, you're back. How was Mr. Bennetski? Well, dear, I'm afraid it's pretty serious. The doctor was there, and they're going to have to amputate in the morning. Can we be present? No. I asked him, but he says it's against the rules of the hospital.
Well, you could be of any service. You must spare yourself something.
Well, here's the beef broth, Mr. Brophy. Be sure it's good and hot.
Yes, ma'am.
This is fine. It'll make a lot of kids happy. That O'Malley boy's nuts about soldiers.
That's General Miles. I retired him. What's this? The Oregon?
Teddy, dear, put it back.
But the Oregon goes to Australia.
Now, Teddy.
Aunt Abby, I've given my word to Fighting Bob Evans.
But Teddy.
What does it matter what kid gets it? Bobby Evans, Izzy Cohen. We'll be running along, ma'am, and thank you very much.
Oh, not at all. Watch your step on your way out. Goodbye.
Well, I suppose I better be running along.
Oh, before you go down...
Charge! Charge the blockhouse!
Blockhouse?
The stairs are always San Juan Hill.
Have you ever tried to persuade him that he's not Teddy Roosevelt?
Oh, no. He's so happy being Teddy Roosevelt. Once, a long time ago, remember, Martha? We thought if he might be George Washington, it might be a change for him. Oh, yes. But he just stayed under his bed for days and wouldn't be anybody. And we'd so much rather he be Mr. Roosevelt than nobody.
Well, if he's happy, what's more important if you're happy? You'll see that he signs these.
What are they? Oh, Dr. Harper has made all arrangements for Teddy to go to Happydale Sanitarium after we pass on. Oh, very well, but why should Teddy sign anything now?
Well, you see, it's better to have it all settled. If the Lord should take you away suddenly, perhaps we could get Teddy to commit himself. That would bring up an unpleasant legal proceeding. Mr. Witherspoon understands they are to be filed away until the time is needed for them.
Mr. Witherspoon? Who is he?
Oh, yes, he's the superintendent at Happydale.
Dr. Harper has arranged for him to drop in tomorrow or the next day to meet Teddy.
Well, I suppose I better be running along, or Elaine will be over here looking for me.
Oh, give our love to Elaine. And Dr. Harper, please don't think too harshly of Mortimer because he's a dramatic critic. Somebody has to do these things. Did you just have tea? Isn't it rather late? Yes, and dinner is going to be late too. So, why? Teddy, good news for you. You're going to Panama to dig another lock for the canal.
That's bully! Just bully! I'll get prepared at once for the journey.
Oh, Abby, while he was time and I was all alone. Well, Martha, just look in the window seat. Oh, it's Elaine. Come in, dear.
Good afternoon, Miss Abby. Good afternoon, Miss Martha. I thought Father was here.
He just this minute left. Didn't you meet him?
No, I took the shortcut through the cemetery. Mortimer hasn't come yet?
No, dear, not yet.
Oh, he asked me to meet him here. Do you mind if I wait?
Not at all. Why don't you sit down, dear?
But we really must speak to Mortimer about doing this to you.
Doing what?
He was brought up to know better. When a gentleman is taking a young lady out, he should call for her at her house.
Oh, there's something about calling for a girl at a parsonage that discourages any man who doesn't embroider.
He's done this too often. We're going to speak to him.
Please don't. After young men whose idea of a nightlife was to take me to prayer meetings, it's wonderful to go to the theater almost every night of my life.
Well, it's a comfort for us too, dear, because if Mortimer has to see some of those plays that he has to see, at least he's sitting next to a minister's daughter.
Oh, dear Elaine, what must you think of us not having tea cleared away by this time?
Well, don't bother with anything in the kitchen, dear, until I'm there to help you after Mortimer has come. Mortimer should be here any minute.
Yes. Father must have been surprised not to find me at home. I'll just run over and say goodnight to him.
It's a shame you missed him, dear.
I'll be right back. I'll take this shortcut through the cemetery. If Mortimer comes, tell him I'll be right back. Hello, Mort.
Hello, Elaine.
Hello, Aunt Martha.
Hello, Mortimer. Abby, Mortimer's here.
You weren't going somewhere, were you?
I was just going over to tell Father not to wait up for me tonight.
I didn't know that was still being done, even in Brooklyn.
Oh, hello, Mortimer.
Hello, Aunt Abby.
How are you, dear?
Fine. And you look well. You haven't changed much since yesterday.
Oh, goodness, it was yesterday, wasn't it? We've been seeing a great deal of you lately. Well, come, sit down, sit down.
Oh, Abby, haven't we something to do in the kitchen?
Huh?
You know, the tea things?
Oh, yes, the tea things. Well, you two just make yourselves at home. Just make yourselves at home.
Well, can't you take a hint?
No, that was pretty obvious. A lack of inventiveness, I should say.
Yes, that's exactly what you say.
Where do you want to go for dinner?
Oh, I don't care. I'm not very hungry.
Well, I just had breakfast. Suppose we wait until after the show?
But that'll make it pretty late, won't it?
Not with the little stinker we're seeing tonight.
You ought to be fair to these plays.
Are these plays fair to me?
I've never seen you walk out on a musical.
That musical isn't opening tonight.
No?
Darling, you'll have to learn the rules. With a musical, there are always 4 changes of title and 3 postponements. They liked it in New Haven, but it needs a lot of work.
Oh, I was hoping it was a musical.
You have such a light mind.
Not a bit. Musicals somehow have a humanizing effect on you. After a serious play, we joined the proletariat in the subway, and I listened to a lecture on the drama. After a musical, you bring me home in a taxi, and you make a few passes.
Now, wait a minute, darling. That's a very inaccurate piece of reporting.
Oh, I will admit, after the Behrman play, you told me I had authentic beauty, and that's a heck of a thing to say to a girl. It wasn't until after our first musical that you told me I had nice legs, and I have, too.
You know, for a minister's daughter, you know a lot about life. Where'd you learn it?
In the choir loft.
I'll explain that to you sometime, darling. The close connection between eroticism and religion.
Religion never gets as high as the choir loft. Which reminds me, I better go and tell Father, please not to wait up for me tonight.
I've never been able to rationalize it.
What?
My falling in love with a girl who lives in Brooklyn.
Falling in love? You're not stooping to the articulate, are you?
The only way I can regain my self-respect is to keep you in New York.
Did you say keep?
No. I've come to the conclusion that you're holding out for the legalities.
I can afford to be a good girl for quite a few years yet.
And I can't wait that long. Where could we be married in a hurry? Say tonight.
I'm afraid Father will insist on officiating.
Oh, God. I'll bet your father can make even the marriage service sound pedestrian.
Are you writing a review of it by any chance?
Forgive me, darling. It's an occupational disease. I may get that play tonight, a good notice. sure to tell your father not to wait up tonight.
I think I better tell him to wait up tonight.
I'll telephone Winchell to publish the ban.
Nevertheless.
All right, everything formal and legal, but not later than next month.
Darling, I'll talk it over with Father, and we'll set the date.
No, we'll have to see what's in rehearsal. There'll be a lot of other first nights in October.
Hello, Mortimer.
How are you, Mr. President?
Bully, thank you, just bully. What news have you brought me?
Justice, Mr. President, the country is squarely behind you.
Yes, I know. Isn't it wonderful? Well, goodbye. Goodbye.
Where are you off to, Teddy?
Panama.
Panama's the cellar. He digs locks for the canal down there.
You're so sweet with him. He's very fond of you.
Well, Teddy was always my favorite brother.
Favorite? Were there more of you?
There's another brother, Jonathan.
Oh, I've never heard of him. Your aunts never mentioned him.
No, we don't like to talk about Jonathan. He left Brooklyn very early, by request. Jonathan was the kind of boy who liked to cut worms in two with his teeth. I don't know what happened to him. He wanted to become a surgeon like grandfather, but he wouldn't go to medical school first, and his practice got him into trouble.
Oh, aren't you two going to be late for the theater?
We're skipping dinner. We won't have to leave for another half an hour.
Oh, well, I'll leave you two alone again then.
Don't bother, darling. I'm going over to speak to Father. Before I go out, he likes to pray over me a little. I'll be right back. I'll cut through the cemetery.
If the prayer isn't too long, I'd have time to lead you beside distilled waters.
Oh, Mortimer, that's the first time I've ever heard you quote the Bible. We knew Elaine would be a good influence on you.
Oh, by the way, I'm going to marry her.
Oh, darling. Martha, come in here. I've got wonderful news for you. Mortimer and Elaine are going to be married. Married, Mortimer. We hoped it would happen just like this. Elaine must be the happiest girl in the world.
Happy? Just look at her leaping over those gravestones. Say, what's that?
What's what, dear?
See that statue there? That's a Horundindia Carmina.
No, dear. That's Emma B. Stout ascending to heaven.
No, on Miss Stout's left ear. That bird. That's a red-crested swallow. I've only seen one of those before in my life.
I don't know how you could be thinking about birds now, what with the Elaine and the engagement and everything.
It's a vanishing species. Thoreau was very fond of them. By the way, I left a large envelope around here last week. It was one of my chapters on Thoreau. Have you seen it?
Well, no, dear. But if you left it here, it must be around here somewhere.
Now, Mortimer, what are your plans? When are you going to be married? There must be something more you can tell us about Elaine.
Elaine? Oh, yes. Elaine thought it was brilliant.
What was, dear?
Well, my chapter on Thoreau.
Well, I think when Elaine comes back, we ought to have a little celebration. We must drink to your happiness. Martha, isn't there some of that Lady Baltimore cake left?
Oh, yes.
Now, where can I put that?
Well, Mortimer, with your fiancé sitting next to you tonight at the theater, I do hope it will be something you can enjoy for once. Maybe something romantic. What's the name of it?
Murder will out.
Oh, dear.
When the curtain goes up, the first thing you see will be a dead body. Aunt Abby, you were making plans for Teddy to go to that sanitarium, Happydale.
Oh, yes. Dr. Harper was here today. He brought the papers over for Teddy to sign. They are.
He's got to sign them right away.
Oh, yes. That's what Dr. Harper thinks, too. Then there won't be any legal difficulties.
He's got to sign in this minute. He's down in the cellar. Get him up here right away.
There's no such rush as that.
No, once Teddy's digging the lock, you can't get his mind on anything else.
Teddy has to go to Happydale now. Tonight.
Why, Mortimer, how can you say such a thing? As long as we're alive, we won't be separated from Teddy.
Listen, darlings, I'm frightfully sorry, but I've got some shocking news for you. Now, we've all got to try and keep our heads. You know, we sort of humored Teddy because we thought he was harmless.
Why, he is harmless.
He was harmless. That's why he has to go to Happydale. Why he has to be confined.
Why, Mortimer, why have you suddenly turned against Teddy, your own brother?
You've got to know sometime. It might as well be now. He's killed a man.
Nonsense, dear.
There's a body in the window seat.
Yes, dear, we know.
No!
Dear, of course, it has nothing to do with Teddy. Now, Mortimer, you just forget about it.
Forget?
I never dreamed you'd peek.
Peek? But who is he?
His name's Hoskins, Adam Hoskins. That's really all I know about him, except that he's a Methodist.
That's all you know about him? What's he doing here? What happened to him?
He died.
Aunt Martha, they don't just get into window seats and die.
No, dear, he died first.
Well, how?
Oh, Mortimer, don't be so inquisitive. The gentleman died because he drank some wine with poison in it.
How did the poison get in the wine?
Well, we put it in wine because it's less noticeable. When it's in tea, it has a distinct odor.
You put it in the wine?
Yes, and I put Mr. Hoskins in the window seat because Dr. Harper was coming over.
So you knew what you'd done. You didn't want Dr. Harper to see the body.
Well, no, dear, not at tea. That wouldn't have been very nice. You just forget the whole thing. I do think your Aunt Martha and I have the right to our own little secrets.
And don't you tell Elaine. Oh, Abby, while I was out, I dropped in on Mrs. Schultz, and she's doing much better, but she would like us to take Junior to the movies again.
Oh, we must do that tomorrow or the next day.
Yes, but this time we're going where we want to go. I won't let Junior drag me into another one of those scary pictures.
Oh, no.
City desk. Hello, Al. Do you know who this is? That's right. Say, Al, when I left the office, I told you where I was going, remember? Well, where did I say? Uh-huh. Well, it would take me about a half an hour to get to Brooklyn. What time have you got? That's right. Must be here. Aunt Abby, Aunt Martha, come in here. What are we going to do? What are we going to do?
What are we going to do about what, dear?
There's a body in there.
Yes, dear, Mr. Hoskins.
Well, good heavens, I can't turn you over to the police, but what am I going to do?
Well, for one thing, dear, stop being so excited.
And stop worrying. We told you to forget the whole thing.
Aunt Abby, can't I make you realize that something has to be done?
Now, Mortimer, you behave yourself. You're too old to be flying off the handle like this.
But Mr. Hotchkiss!
Hoskins, dear.
Well, whatever his name is, you can't leave him in there.
We don't intend to, dear.
No, dear. Teddy is down in the cellar digging a loft right now.
You mean you're going to bury Mr. Hotchkiss in the cellar?
Well, yes, dear. That's what we did with the others.
No! You can't bury Mr. Others?
The other gentleman.
When you say others, do you mean others? More than one others?
Well, yes, dear. Let me see. This makes 11, right, Abby?
No, dear. This makes 12.
No, Abby, I think you're wrong. This is only 11.
No, dear, because it occurred to me when Mr. Hoskins came in that he would make just an even dozen.
But we really shouldn't count the first one.
Oh, I was counting the first one, so that makes it 12.
Hello.
Well, anyway, they're all down in the cellar.
No, Al, I'm sober as a lark. Get a hold of George right away. He's got to cover the play tonight. I can't make it. Wait, no, Al, you're wrong. I can explain it all tomorrow. Well, you've got to get a hold of George. But this is my department and I'm running it. You get a hold of George. Now let's see. 12!
Your and Abby thinks we should count the first one, and that makes 12.
All right. Now, who was the first one?
Mr. Midgley, he was a Baptist.
I still think we can't claim full credit for him, because he just died.
Your Aunt Martha means without any help from us. You see, he came here looking for a room.
He was such a lonely old man.
All his kith and kin had died, and it left him so forlorn and unhappy.
We felt so sorry for him.
And then, when his heart attack came, when he sat dead in that chair, looking so peaceful, we decided then and there
that chair? How awful for you.
Well, no, dear. It was rather like old times. Your grandfather always used to like to have a cadaver or two around the house. And that's why we told you not to worry, dear. Because we know what's to be done.
So that's how all this started. That man walking in here and dropping dead.
Of course, we realized we couldn't depend on that happening every time. So, you remember the jars of poison that used to sit on the shelves in Grandfather's laboratory? And you know your Aunt Martha's knack for mixing things. You've eaten enough of her jam. Well, for a gallon of elderberry wine, I take a teaspoonful of arsenic, a half teaspoonful of strychnine, and just a pinch of cyanide.
Should have quite a kick.
One of our gentlemen even had time enough to say, how delicious. Well, I must be about things in the kitchen. Oh, I do wish you could stay for dinner, dear. I'm trying out a new recipe.
I couldn't eat a thing.
Oh, well, I feel so much better now. You have to wait for Elaine, don't you? You must be so happy. Well, I'll leave you alone with your thoughts, dear.
What church do you go to?
Well, you've got to find somebody. Who else is there around the office?
Is there always this much noise around here?
He doesn't live with us.
Look, Al, how about the office boy? You know, the bright one? The one we don't like? All right, you keep looking around the office. I'll hold on.
I'd like to see the room.
Well, it's upstairs, but won't you see if you like our wine first?
Never touch it.
It's elderberry wine. We make it ourselves.
Elderberry wine. Haven't had elderberry wine since I was a little boy. Thank you.
Well, there's got to be some printers around the place. Look, Al, the fellow who sets my copy. He ought to know about what I write. His name is Joe. He's the third machine from the left.
Do you have your own elderberry bushes?
Well, no, but the cemetery is full of them.
No, I'm not drinking, but I'm going to start now!
Do you serve meals?
Well, we might, but first just see if you like our wine.
Mortimer, Mortimer, not that.
Get out of here! Do you want to be poisoned? Do you want to be killed? Do you want to be murdered?
Now you've ruined everything.
You can't do that! I don't know how to explain this to you, but it's not only against the law, it's wrong. It's not a nice thing to do. People wouldn't understand. He wouldn't understand.
Abby, we shouldn't have told Mortimer.
Well, what I mean is, this has developed into a very bad habit.
Mortimer, we don't try to stop you from doing things you like to do. I don't see why you should interfere with us.
Hello. All right. I'll see the first act and I'll pan the heck out of it. But listen, Al, you've got to do something for me. Get a hold of our Brian, our lawyer, the head of our legal department. Have him meet me at the theater. All right, now don't let me down. Okay, starting now. Look, I've got to go to the theater. I can't get out of it. But before I go, will you promise me something?
We'd have to know what it is first.
I love you very much, and I know you love me. You know I'd do anything in the world for you, and I want you to do just this little thing for me.
Well, what do you want us to do?
Don't do anything. I mean, don't do anything. Don't leave this house and leave Mr. Hoskins right where he is.
But we were going to hold services before dinner.
Services?
Of course, dear. Mr. Hoskins was a Methodist. You don't think we would bury him without a full Methodist service?
Well, can't that wait until I get back?
Then you could come to the services.
Oh, yes! Yes!
Mortimer, I really do think you'll enjoy the services, especially the hymns. Martha, remember how nicely Mortimer used to sing in the choir before his voice changed?
And remember, you're not going to let anyone in this house while I'm gone. It's a promise!
Well, Martha, I do think we can do this for Mortimer now that he's cooperating. Well, all right, Mortimer.
Have you got any paper? I'll be back just as soon as I can. There's a man I've got to see.
Well, here's some stationery. Will this do?
That'll be fine. I can save time if I write a review on the way to the theater.
Mortimer didn't seem quite himself today.
Yes, I think I know why.
Why is that?
Well, he's just become engaged to be married. I do think that always makes a man a little nervous.
Yes, and I really think that Mortimer and Elaine's honeymoon will be a good change for Mortimer. I don't think he got much rest this summer.
Well, at least he didn't go kiting off to China or Spain.
I never could understand why anyone would want to go to those places.
Well, I think to Mortimer, the theater has always seemed pretty small potatoes. He's always needed something big to criticize. Something like the human race.
Oh, if Mortimer is coming to the services for Mr. Hoskins, we'll need another hymnal. There's one in my room.
Oh, Martha, it's really my turn to read the services, but since you weren't here when Mr. Hoskins came, I want you to do it.
Are you sure, dear?
Oh, well, it's only fair.
Well, I think I'll wear Mother's old brooch.
Who could that be? I'll go to him.
We promised not to let anyone in.
Well, who do you suppose it is?
I don't know. Let me look.
It's two men, and I've never seen them before. Are you sure? Yes, and there's a car at the curb. They must have come in that. Well, let me look, dear. Do you recognize them? They're strangers to me. Well, we must pretend like we're not home.
Come in, Doctor. This is the home of my youth. As a boy, I couldn't wait to escape from this place. But now I'm glad to escape back into it.
Yeah, it's nice here.
The family must still live here. There's something so unmistakably Brewster about the Brewsters. I hope there's a fatted calf awaiting the return of the prodigal.
Yeah, I'm hungry. Look, Johnny, drinks.
As though we were expecting. A good omen.
Who are you? What are you doing here?
Why, Aunt Abby, Aunt Martha, it's Jonathan.
You just get out of here.
It's me, your nephew Jonathan.
Oh, no, you're not. You're nothing like Jonathan, so don't pretend you are. You just get out of here.
But I am Jonathan. And this is Dr. Einstein.
He's not Dr. Einstein either.
Not Dr. Albert Einstein, Dr. Herman Einstein.
You're not Jonathan. You just get out of here.
I see you're still wearing that lovely garnet-ridden grandmother Mr. Bond in London. And you, Aunt Martha. Still the high collar to hide where grandfather's acid burned you.
His voice is like Jonathan's. Have you been in an accident?
No. My face? Dr. Einstein is responsible for that. He's the plastic surgeon. He changes people's faces.
But I've seen that face before. Abby, when we took the little Schultz boys to the movies and I was so frightened, it was that face.
Easy, Johnny, easy. Don't worry, ladies. In the last 5 years, I give Johnny 3 new faces. I give him a new one right away. As for this face, well, I saw that picture too, right before I operated. And I was a little intoxicated.
See what you've done to me?
But Johnny, you're home, in this beautiful house. How often he tells me of Brooklyn, of the aunts that he loves so much. Johnny, they know it's you. You know it's Jonathan. Speak to him. Tell him so.
Well, Jonathan, it's been a great many years. What have you been doing all this time? Yes, Jonathan. Where have you been?
Oh, Australia, England, South Africa. The last 5 years, Chicago. Dr. Einstein and I were in business there together.
Oh, we were in Chicago for the World's Fair. Yes, we found it awfully warm.
Yeah, it got hot for us too.
Well, it's good to be in Brooklyn again. And you, Abby, Martha, you look just as I remember you. Not a day older. Still sweet, charming, hospitable. And dear Teddy, did he ever get into politics? My brother, Doctor, was determined to become president.
Oh, Teddy's fine, just fine. And Mortimer as well, too.
Yes, I know all about Mortimer. I've seen his picture at the head of his column. He's evidently fulfilled all the promise of his early nasty nature.
We're very fond of Mortimer. Well, Jonathan, it was nice of you to think of us and stop by.
Bless you, Aunt Martha. It's good to be home.
Well, we mustn't let what's on the stove boil over. Yes, Jonathan, we'll just be a minute, unless you have someplace to go.
Johnny, where do we go from here? We gotta think fast. The police, they got a picture of that face. I gotta operate on you right away. We need to find a place for that. And for Mr. Spinalzo.
Don't waste any worry on that, brat.
But Johnny, we got a hot stiff on our hands.
Forget about Mr. Spinalzo. But you can't just leave a dead body in the rumble seat. You shouldn't have killed him, Johnny. He was a nice fellow. He gives us a lift, and what happens?
He said I looked like Boris Karloff. That's your doing, Doctor. You've done this to me.
We find a place for this first, and I fix you up right away.
Tonight.
But Johnny, I gotta eat first. I'm hungry. I'm weak.
Well, Jonathan, we're glad that you remembered us and took the time to come in and say hello. But you were never happy as a boy in this house, and we were never happy while you were in it. So we've just come in to say goodbye.
Aunt Annie, I can't say that your feelings for me come as much of a surprise. I've spent a great many hours regretting the many heartaches I must have caused you as a boy.
You were quite a trial to us, Jonathan.
But my greatest disappointment is for Dr. Einstein. You see, I promised him that no matter how rushed we were coming through Brooklyn, we'd stop in for one of Aunt Martha's home-cooked dinners.
Oh, well, I'm afraid there wouldn't be enough. Well, Abby, it's a rather good-sized pot roast.
Pot roast?
I think it's the least we can do.
Thank you, Aunt Martha. We'll stay to dinner.
Well, we'll get it started right away since we're all in a hurry.
Yes.
Oh, and Jonathan, if you want to freshen up in the bathroom in Grandfather's old laboratory, you can go ahead and do that.
Is that still there?
Yes, it's just as he left it. We'll get things started since we're all in a hurry.
Well, at least we get a meal tonight.
Grandfather's old laboratory. And just as it was, a perfect operating room, Doctor.
Yeah, too bad we can't use it.
When you finish with me, we can make a fortune here. Laboratory, that large war in the attic, 10 beds, Doctor. And Brooklyn is crying for your talents.
Why work yourself up, Johnny? For Brooklyn, I think we're a year too late.
You don't know this town like I do, Doctor. Practically everyone in Brooklyn needs a new face.
But all the old faces are locked up.
A very small percentage. And the boys in Brooklyn are famous for paying generously to stay out of jail.
But Johnny, your aunts, they don't want us here.
Leave it to me. I'll handle it. Why, this place could be our headquarters for years.
Oh, that would be beautiful. This nice, quiet house. Those aunts of yours, such sweet ladies. I love them already. I will get the bags, yeah?
Doctor, please. We must wait until we're invited.
But you just said that...
We'll be invited.
And if they say no?
Doctor, two helpless old women?
It's like comes true, a beautiful dream. I only hope you're not dreaming. It's so peaceful.
That's what makes this house so perfect for us, Doctor. It's so peaceful. Yes, my dear aunties, those 5 years in Chicago were among the busiest and happiest of my life.
And from Chicago, we go to South Bend, Indiana.
They wouldn't be interested in our experiences in Indiana.
Well, Jonathan, you've led a very interesting life, I'm sure, but we really shouldn't have allowed you to talk so late.
My meeting Dr. Einstein, I might add, changed the course of my life. As you remember, I was in South Africa, in the diamond business, and then Amsterdam, the diamond market. I wanted to go back to South Africa, and Dr. Einstein made it possible.
A good job, Johnny. When we take off the bandages, his face looks so different. The nurse had to introduce me.
I love that face. I still carry a picture of it with me.
Well, this looks more the way you used to, but still I wouldn't know you.
I think we'll go back to that face, Doctor.
Yeah, it's safe now.
Well, I know you want to get to where you're going.
My dear aunties, I'm so full of that delicious meal, I couldn't possibly move a muscle.
Yeah, it's nice here.
After all, it's very late.
I found it! I found it!
What did you find, Teddy?
The story of my life. My biography. Here's that picture I was telling you about, General. There we are, the both of us. General Goethals and President Roosevelt at Culebra Cut.
My, how I've changed.
You see, that picture hasn't been taken yet. We haven't even begun work at Culebra Cut. We're still digging locks in Panama. And now, General, you come with me to inspect the new lock.
No, Teddy, not to Panama.
Yeah, Panama's a long way off.
Nonsense. It's just down in the cellar.
The cellar.
We let him dig the Panama Canal in the cellar.
General Goethals, as President of the United States, Commander-in-Chief of the Army and Navy, and the man who gave you this job, I demand that you accompany me with the inspection of the new lock.
Teddy, I think it's time you went to bed.
Excuse me? Who are you?
I'm Woodrow Wilson. Go to bed.
You're not Wilson. Your face looks familiar. Not anyone I know now. Perhaps later, on my hunting trip to Africa. You look like someone I'd meet in the jungle.
Teddy, it's your brother Jonathan, dear.
He's had his face changed.
Oh, so that's it. A nature faker.
Perhaps you had better go to bed, Teddy. Jonathan and his friend must be getting back to their hotel.
General, inspect the canal.
All right, Mr. President, we go to Panama.
Bully, bully! Come with me, General. It's down south, you know.
Well, bon voyage.
Please allow me to correct your misapprehension. You spoke of a hotel room. We have no hotel room. We came directly here.
Well, there's a nice little hotel just 3 blocks
Aunt
down.
Martha, this is my home.
But Jonathan, you can't stay here. We need our rooms.
You need them.
Yes, for our lodgers.
Are there lodgers in this house?
Well, not just now, but we plan on having some.
Then my room is still available.
But there's no place for Dr. Einstein.
He can stay with me.
I'm sorry, Jonathan, but I'm afraid you can't stay here.
Dr. Einstein and I need a place to sleep. You remembered earlier that as a boy I could be disagreeable. It wouldn't be very pleasant for any of us if...
Perhaps we'd better let them stay here tonight.
Well, just for tonight.
It's settled. If you'll see to my room.
It only needs airing out.
We keep it ready to show our lodgers. I'm sure you'll find it quite comfortable.
You have a very distinguished guest in Dr. Einstein. I don't think you appreciate his skill, but you will. In a few weeks, you'll see me looking like a very different Jonathan.
But he can't operate on you here.
When Dr. Einstein and I get settled, once he's done with me. Oh, I forgot to tell you. We're turning Grandfather's old laboratory into an operating room. We expect to be quite easy.
Jonathan, I will not allow you to turn this house into a hospital.
A hospital? Heavens no on it. It'll be a beauty parlor.
Hey, Johnny, down in the cellar.
Doctor, my dear aunts have invited us to live with them.
Oh, so you fixed it?
Well, you're staying here for tonight.
Well,
For tonight.
Hey, Johnny, when I go down to the cellar, what do you think I find?
What?
The Panama Canal.
The Panama Canal.
It's a hole, Teddy dug, 4 feet wide and 6 feet long. It just fits Mr. Spinoza.
Down there.
You'd think they were bringing Mr. Spinoza over this. That's hospitality.
Rather a good joke. My aunt's living in a house with a body buried in the cellar.
But how do we get him in?
Yeah. We can't just walk him in through the front door. We'll pull the house up in between the house and pull the car up in between the house and the cemetery. Then, when they've gone to bed, we'll bring Mr. Spinoza in through the window.
Bed. Just think, Johnny, we're gonna sleep in a bed tonight.
Go easy on that, Doctor. You're operating tomorrow, and this time you better be sober.
I'll fix you up beautiful.
And if you don't,
Jonathan, your room is ready.
you two can run along to bed. We're moving the car behind the house.
well, it's all right where it is until morning.
I don't want to leave it in the street. It might be against the law.
Oh, Abby, what are we going to do?
Well, we're not going to let them stay in this house for more than one night for one thing. What would the
He says the lock is just the right size.
Teddy, there's been another yellow fever victim.
Dear me. This will come as a shock to the general.
Then we mustn't tell him about it.
But we have to tell him. It's his department.
But Teddy, we mustn't tell him. It would just spoil his visit.
I'm sorry, Aunt Tabby. It's out of my hands. He must be told.
But Teddy, we must keep it a secret.
Yes.
A state secret?
Yes, a state secret.
Promise?
You have the word of the President of the United States. Cross my heart, hope to die. Now, how are we going to keep this a secret?
Well, Teddy, you go back down to Panama, and when we turn out the lights, when it's all dark up here, you come up and bring the poor gentleman down to the lock. Now, go along, Teddy.
We'll be down later to hold services.
You may announce that the President would like to say a few words. Where is the poor devil?
He's in the window seat.
The window seat? We've never had yellow fever there before.
I think when Jonathan and Dr. Einstein come back, we should get them to go to bed right away.
Yes, and then by the time they're asleep, we'll be changed for the funeral.
Teddy?
I've never even seen Mr. Hoskins.
Oh, goodness, that's right. You were out when he came. Well, you just come right over and see him now. He's really very nice looking, considering he's a Methodist.
We're bringing the luggage in through here.
Your room's ready. You can go right up.
I'm afraid we don't keep Brooklyn hours, but you two run along to bed.
Now, you must be very tired, both of you. And I'm afraid we don't go to bed this early.
Well, you should. It's about time I came home to take care of you.
We weren't planning to go
Aunt
until...
Martha, did you hear me say go to bed? Doctor, the instruments can go to the laboratory in the morning. Now then, we're all going to bed.
I'll wait until you're up, and then I'll turn out the lights.
Another flight, Doctor. Run along, Aunt Martha. All right, Aunt Abby.
I'll be right up.
Turn out the lights, Aunt Abby. Now! All right. I'll get the window. You go around and hand it through.
No, he's too heavy for me. You push him. I'll catch him and pull him through, and together we'll go to Panama.
All right. I'll head around the house. When I tap on the glass, you open the window.
All right, Johnny.
Abby? Miss Martha? Who is it? Is that you, Teddy? Who are you?
Who are you?
I'm Elaine Harper. I live next door.
What are you doing here?
I came over to see Miss Abby and Miss Martha.
Doctor, the lights. You chose rather an untimely moment for a social call.
I think you better explain what you're doing here.
We happen to live here.
You don't live here. I'm in this house every day, and I've never seen you before. Where are Miss Abby and Miss Martha?
Perhaps we'd better introduce ourselves. This is Dr. Einstein,
Dr. Einstein?
a surgeon of great distinction, and something of a magician.
And I suppose you're going to tell me you're Boris.
I'm Jonathan Brewster.
Oh, you're Jonathan.
I see you've heard of me.
Yes, just this afternoon for the first time.
And what did they say?
Just that there was another brother named Jonathan. That's all. Well, that explains everything. Now that I know who you are, I'll be running along home. If you'll kindly unlock the door.
That explains everything. Just what did you mean by that? What are you doing here at this time of night?
I thought I saw someone prowling around the house. I suppose it was you.
You saw someone prowling around the house?
Yes. Weren't you outside? Isn't that your car?
You saw someone at the car?
Yes.
What was the man doing at the car?
Just walking around the house and to the car.
What else did you see?
Just that. That's all. You see, I was going to tell Miss Abby to call the police, but if it was you and that's your car, I don't need to bother Miss Abby. I'll be running along.
What else did you see?
I don't know. You see, I was on my way over here.
I think you're lying.
I think she tells the truth. Where let her go, eh?
I think she's lying. Breaking into a house this time of night. I think she's dangerous. She shouldn't have gone around loose.
Take your hands off me.
Doctor?
Going to be a private service.
Teddy, tell these men who I am.
That's my daughter, Alice.
No, Teddy!
It sounded quick.
What's going on down there? What's happening? What's the matter? What's going on?
Sneak thief. Go back to your rooms.
We'll call the police.
We've called the police. We're handling it. Go back to your rooms.
Mortimer! Where have you been?
To the Nora Bay's Theater. And I should have known better. My God, I'm still there.
This is your brother Jonathan, and this is Dr. Einstein.
I know this isn't a nightmare, but what is it?
I've come home, Mortimer.
Who did you say this was again?
It's your brother Jonathan, dear. He's had his face changed.
Jonathan! Jonathan, you always were a horror. Do you have to look like one?
Easy, Johnny. Easy.
Mortimer, do you remember the things I used to do to you when we were boys? The time you were tied to the bedposts. The needles under your fingernails.
My God, it is Jonathan. Yes, I remember. I remember you as the most detestable, vicious, venomous form of animal life I ever knew.
Now, don't you two boys start quarreling again the minute you've seen each other.
There won't be any fight on Abby. Jonathan, you're not wanted here. Get out!
We've been invited to stay.
Not in this house.
Well, just for tonight.
I don't want him anywhere near me.
But we did invite them to stay for tonight, and it wouldn't be very nice to go back on our word.
All right, tonight. But first thing in the morning, out. Now, where are they sleeping?
We've put them in Jonathan's old room.
That's my old room. I'm sleeping there. I'm here to stay.
Oh, Mortimer, I'm so glad.
Yeah, we'll sleep down here tonight.
You bet your life you sleep down.
You can sleep on the sofa, Johnny, and I'll sleep on the window seat.
The window seat! Oh, well. The window seat is good enough for me tonight. I will sleep on the window seat.
All this argument reminds me of Mr. Spinozzo.
Spinozzo. You know, Mortimer, there's really no need to inconvenience you like this. You can have the room.
Jonathan, your sudden consideration for me is very unconvincing.
Come on, Johnny. Let's get the things out of our room now.
Doctor. You know, Doctor, with all this going on, I've completely lost track of Mr. Spinall.
Who's this Mr. Spinall?
Just a friend of ours that Johnny was looking for.
Well, don't bring anyone else in here.
Come on, Johnny. While we pack our things, I'll explain everything to you.
Mortimer, you know you really don't have to sleep down here. I can go in with Martha and you can take my room.
That's not necessary, Aunt Abby. We'll be packed in 2 minutes, and then you can have the room, Mortimer.
You're just wasting your time. I told you I'm sleeping down here.
Mortimer,
What's the matter with you, dear?
I've almost been killed.
You've almost been... Abby! Martha!
Jonathan! He mistook her for a sneak thief.
No, it was more than that. He's some kind of maniac. Mortimer, I'm afraid of him.
Darling, you're trembling. Sit down. Have you got any smelling salts?
Well, no. Tea or coffee?
Coffee. And make some for me, too. I haven't had any dinner. Some sandwiches as well.
We'll make something for the both of you.
Oh, Martha, we can leave our hats down here now.
You weren't going somewhere, were you? Do you know what time it is? It's after 12.
12! Elaine, you've got to go home.
What? But you wanted some sandwiches for the both of you. It won't take a minute.
Why, don't you remember, dear? We were going to celebrate your engagement. Yes, that's what we'll do, dear. We'll make some supper for the both of you and open a bottle of wine.
All right. No wine!
What's going on in this house?
What do you mean, what's going on in this house?
You were supposed to take me to dinner in the theater tonight, and you called it off. You asked me to marry you. I said I would, and 5 minutes later, you threw me out of the house. Tonight, just after your brother tries to strangle me, you want to chase me home. Now listen, Mr. Brewster, before I go, I want to know where I stand. Do you love me?
I love you very much, Elaine. In fact, I love you so much, I can't marry you.
Have you suddenly gone crazy?
I don't know, but it's only a matter of time. You see, insanity runs in my family. It practically gallops.
No, wait, older is better than that.
No, dear, there's a strange taint in the Brewster blood.
Now, just because Teddy is a little...
No, it goes way back. Take my grandfather. He tried his patent medicines out on dead people to be sure he wouldn't kill them.
He wasn't so crazy. He made $1 million.
And then there's Jonathan. He just said he was a maniac. He tried to kill you.
But he's your brother, not you. I'm in love with you.
And there's Teddy. You know Teddy. He thinks he's Roosevelt. No, dear. No Brewster should marry. I realize now that if I had met my father in time, I'd have stopped him.
Now, all this doesn't prove you're crazy. Look at your aunts. They're Brewsters, aren't they? And they're the sanest, sweetest people I've ever known.
Well, even they have their peculiarities.
Yes, but what lovely peculiarities. Kindness, generosity.
There's another one!
There are plenty of others. You can't tell me anything about your aunts.
I'm not going to. Look, Elaine, you run along home. Something very important has just come up.
Oh, from where? We're here alone together.
I know I'm acting irrationally, but just put it down to the fact that I'm a mad Brewster.
If you think you're going to get out of this, right, pretending that you're insane, you're crazy. Maybe you're not going to marry me, but I'm going to marry you. I love you, you dope.
Well, if you love me, we would get the heck out of here.
Well, at least take me home, won't you? I'm afraid.
Afraid? A little walk through the cemetery.
Mortimer, will you kiss me goodnight?
Of course, dear. Good night, dear.
You critic.
What? Elaine! Aunt Abby, Aunt Martha, get in here!
Yes, dear, we'll be in a minute.
Get in here now!
Oh, what is it, Mortimer? Where's Elaine?
I thought I told you not to let anyone in this house while I was away.
Well, Jonathan just walked
I
in.
don't mean Jonathan.
And Dr. Einstein was
I
with
don't
him.
mean Dr. Einstein. Who's that in the window seat?
We told you, dear. Mr. Hoskins.
It is not Mr. Hoskins.
Well, who could that be?
Abby, are you trying to tell me you've never seen this gentleman before?
I certainly am. Why, this is a fine how do you do. It's beginning to be so any gentleman thinks he can walk into this house.
Don't you try to get out of this. This is another one of your gentlemen.
Why, Mortimer, how can you say such a thing? I've never seen this man in my life. He's an imposter, And if he thinks he's going to be buried with Mr. Hoskins, he's mistaken.
Abby, how can I believe you? You admitted to me that you put Mr. Hoskins in the window seat.
Yes, I did.
Well, this guy couldn't have just gotten the idea from Mr. Hoskins. By the way, where is Mr. Hoskins?
Oh, he must have gone to Panama.
You buried him?
No, dear, not yet. We haven't had a minute, what with Jonathan in the house. Oh, dear. I've always wanted to hold a double funeral, but I will not hold services over a total stranger.
A stranger? Aunt Abby, how can I believe you? There are 12 men in the cellar, and you admit that you poisoned them.
Yes, I did. But you don't think I'd stoop to telling a fib? Martha!
Oh, Mortimer, I'd like to have a word with you. The word's about all you'll have time for, Jonathan, because I've decided it's time for you and your doctor friend to get out of this house, and just as quickly as possible.
I'm glad you realize that you and I can't live under the same roof. But you've arrived at the wrong solution. Get out!
Jonathan! To bore me. You've played your one-night stand in Brooklyn. Get out!
My dear Mortimer, just because you graduated from the back fence to the typewriter, don't think you've grown up. I'm staying and you're leaving, and I mean now.
If you think I can be frightened, if you think there's anything I fear.
I've lived a strange life, Mortimer, but it's taught me one thing, to be afraid of nothing.
Martha, you just look what's in that window seat.
Jonathan, let Aunt Martha see what's in the window seat. Aunt Abby, I owe you an apology. I have good news. Jonathan is leaving. He's taking Dr. Einstein and their cold companion with him. Jonathan, you're my brother. You're a Brewster. I'm giving you a chance to get away and take the evidence with you. You can't ask for more than that. Very well. In that case, I'll have to call the police.
Don't touch that telephone. Are you still giving me orders after seeing what's happened to Spinozzo?
Spinozzo? I knew he was a foreigner.
What happened to Mr. Spinozzo can happen to you, too.
Hello, Miss Abby.
Oh, come in, Officer O'Hara.
I saw your lights on and I thought there might be sickness in the house. Oh, you've got company. I'm sorry, I disturbed you.
No.
Yes, come in. Do come in, Officer O'Hara. This is our nephew, Mortimer.
Pleased to meet you.
And this is another nephew, Jonathan.
Pleased to make your acquaintance. It must be nice having your nephews visiting you. Will they be staying with you for a bit?
I am staying. My brother Jonathan is just leaving.
I've met you here before, haven't I?
I'm afraid not. Jonathan hasn't been home for a great many years.
Your face looks familiar. Maybe I've seen a picture of you somewhere?
I don't think so.
Yes, Jonathan. I'd hurry if I were you. Your things are all packed anyway, aren't they?
Well, you'll be wanting to say goodbyes. I'll be running along.
What's the rush? I'd like you to stay until my brother goes.
I just stopped by to make sure that everything was all right.
We're gonna have some coffee in a minute. Won't you join us?
I forgot the coffee. And I'll make some sandwiches. I ought to know your appetite by now, Officer O'Hara.
Don't bother. I'm due to ring in a few minutes.
You can have a cup of coffee with us. My brother is just leaving.
Say, ain't I seen a photograph of your brother around here someplace?
I don't think so.
Well, he sure does look familiar.
Well, probably someone you might have seen in the movies.
Oh, no. I never go to the movies. I hate them. My mother says the movies are fools.
Oh, yes, it's full of them. Your mother said that?
Yes, my mother was an actress, a stage actress. Perhaps you've heard of her. Peaches Latour?
Sounds like a name I might have seen on a program. What did she play?
Well, her big hit was Mutt and Jeff. Played it for 3 years. I was born on tour, 3rd season.
You were?
Yep, Sioux City, Iowa. Born in the dressing room after the 2nd act. And mother made the finale.
What a trooper. I'll bet there's quite a story in your mother. You know, I could write about the theater.
Say, you're not Mortimer Brewster, the theater critic.
Yes.
Well, I certainly am glad to meet you. Say, Mr. Brewster, we're in the same line of business.
We are?
Yeah, I'm a playwright. Oh, this being on the police force is just temporary.
How long have you been on the force?
12 years. years. I'm collecting material for a play.
I'll bet it's a honey.
Well, it ought to be. With all the drama I see being a cop, Mr. Brewster, you have no idea what goes on in the streets of Brooklyn.
I think I have.
Say, what time you got?
10 after 1.
Oh, gee, I gotta ring in.
Wait a minute, O'Hara. On that play of yours, I may be able to help you.
You would? Say, it was fate meeting you here tonight. Look, I'll tell you the plot.
Oh, you're on your way, eh? Good. You haven't got much time, you know.
Oh, are you leaving, Jonathan? Well, goodbye. Goodbye, Dr. Einstein. Oh, is this case yours?
Yes, Jonathan. You can't leave without all of your things. Well, O'Hara, it was nice meeting you. I'll see you again and we'll talk about that play of yours.
Oh, I'm not leaving now, Mr. Brewster.
Why not?
Well, you just promised to help me write my play, didn't you? We're gonna write my play together.
I can't do that, O'Hara. I'm not a good writer.
I'll do the creating. You just put the words to it.
But O'Hara!
No, sir, Mr. Brewster, I'm not leaving this house until I tell you the plot.
In that case, we'll just be running along.
Don't try that. You've got to take everything with you, you know. O'Hara, my brother's just going. You get going?
I can wait. I've been waiting 12 years.
I'm sorry I was so long.
Don't bring that in here! O'Hara, would you like to join us for a bite in the kitchen?
The kitchen? Oh, Jonathan's just leaving. Oh, well, that's nice. Come along, Officer O'Hara. Sure you don't mind eating in the kitchen?
Where else would you eat?
Well, goodbye, Jonathan. It was nice to have seen you again.
Jonathan, I'm glad you came back to Brooklyn because it gives me a chance to throw you out. And the first one out is your boyfriend, Mr. Spinoza!
Mr. Brewster, we can eat it here.
Coming right out!
I might have known you'd grow up to write a play with a policeman.
Get going now, all three of you.
Doctor, this affair between my brother and I has got to be settled.
Johnny, we're in a lot of trouble. Your brother, he gives us a chance to get away. What more could you ask?
You don't understand. This goes back a good many years.
Come on, Johnny, let's get going.
We're not going anywhere. We're staying here tonight.
With a cop in the kitchen and Mr. Spinozzo in the window seat.
That's all he's got on us. We'll take Spinozzo down and dump him in the bay, then come back here. And then if Mortimer tries to interfere...
But Johnny...
Doctor, you know when I make up my mind.
Yeah, when you make up your mind, you lose your head. Brooklyn ain't a good place for you.
Doctor?
All right, we stick together. Someday, we get stuck together. If we're staying here, we gotta take this with us.
No. Hide that in the cellar and move fast. When you're done there, Spinozzo can go out the same way he came in.
Hey, Johnny, come quick.
What?
You know that hole in the cellar?
Yeah?
Well, we got an ace in the hole. Come, I'll show you.
Jonathan! Jonathan! Jonathan!
Yes, Mortimer.
Where have you been? I thought I told you to get going.
We're not going anywhere.
You're not. You think I'm not serious about this? Do you want O'Hara to know what's in the window seat?
We're staying here tonight.
Fine. You asked for it. This gets me rid of you and Officer O'Hara at the same time. Officer O'Hara, come in here.
If you tell O'Hara about what's in the window seat, I'm going to tell him about what's in the cellar.
The cellar?
There's an elderly gentleman down there who appears to be quite deaf.
What are you doing down in the cellar?
What's he doing down in the cellar?
No thanks, ma'am. They were fine. I've been plenty.
Now, what were you going to say to O'Hara?
Mr. Brewster, your aunts want to hear it too. Shall I bring them in here?
You can't do that, O'Hara. You've got to ring in.
The heck with ringing in. I'm going to bring your aunts in here and tell you the plot.
No, O'Hara, not in front of these people.
Well, Bowser.
We'll get together someplace at home. Later.
How about the back room at Kelly's?
Fine. You go ring in, and I'll meet you at Kelly's.
Why don't you two go down in the cellar?
Well, that's all right with me. Is this the cellar?
No! We'll go to Kelly's, but you've got to ring in on the way.
Okay, that'll only take a couple minutes.
I'll ditch this guy and be back in 5 minutes. When I return, I'll expect to find you gone. Wait for me.
Yes. We'll wait for him, Doctor. I've waited a good many years for a chance like this.
We got it right where we wanted.
Did he
you won't have time.
No, if you're still here when Mortimer gets back, he won't like it.
He'll like it. He's got to. Get something for us to eat while we bury Spinalzo in the cellar.
Oh, no! You can't bury Mr. Spinalzo in the cellar. You've got to take him with you.
There's a friend of Mortimer's down there waiting for him.
A friend of Mortimer's?
They should get along fine together. After all, they're both dead.
They must be Mr. Hoskins.
Mr. Hoskins? You know about what's in the cellar?
Of course. And it has nothing to do with Mortimer. He's one of our gentlemen.
Your gentleman?
Yes, and we will not have strangers buried in our cellar.
No, there's no room for him anyways. The cellar is crowded already.
Crowded? With what?
There are 12 graves down there now.
12 graves? You mean you and Aunt Martha have murdered?
Murdered? Certainly not. It's one of our charities.
Why, what we're doing is a mercy.
But Mr. Hoskins...
Mr. Hoskins is not a stranger.
Johnny, we are chased all over the world. They stay right here in Brooklyn and do just as good a job as you do.
What?
You've got 12, and they've got 12.
I've got 13.
No, 12.
13. There's Mr. Spinalzo, the first one in London, 2 in Johannesburg, 1 in Melbourne, 1 in Sydney, 2 in San Francisco, the 1 in Phoenix, Arizona,
Phoenix?
the filling station, the 3 in Chicago, and the 1 in South Bend. That makes 13.
But you can't count the one in South Bend. He died of pneumonia.
He wouldn't have gotten pneumonia if I hadn't shot him.
No, Johnny, he died of pneumonia. He don't count.
He counts with me. I say 13.
No, Johnny, 12. The old ladies are just as good as you.
Oh, they are they? Well, that's easily settled. After all I need is one more. Just one more.
Well, here I am.
You stop doing that! This is our house and this is our cellar and you can't do that!
Please, go back upstairs where you belong.
Act 1, go upstairs.
There's no use you're doing what you're doing because it will just have to be undone. I tell you, we won't have it and you'd better stop it. All right, you'll find out. You'll find out whose house this is. I'm warning you, you'd better stop it. Hasn't Mortimer come back yet? No. I tell you, it's a terrible thing to do, to bury a good Methodist with a foreigner. Abby, I would not have our cellar desecrated, and we promised Mr. Hoskins a good Christian funeral. Where has Mortimer gone? I don't know, but when he left, he said to Jonathan, "You just wait, I'll settle this." And he can't very well settle it while he's out of the house. That's all we want settled. What's going on down there?
Now, where's Teddy?
Mortimer, where have you been?
I've been over to Dr. Gilchrist. I was getting his signature on Teddy's commitment papers.
Mortimer, what is the matter with you? Running around getting papers signed at a time like this. Do you know what Jonathan is doing? He's putting Mr. Hoskins and Mr. Spinalzo in together.
Oh, he is he? Well, let him. Is Teddy in his room?
Teddy won't be any help.
When he signs these commitment papers, I can tackle Jonathan.
What have they got to do with it?
You had to go and tell Jonathan about those 12 graves. If I can make Teddy responsible for those, I can protect you, don't you see?
No, I don't see. And we pay taxes to have the police protect us.
I'll be back down in a minute.
Hold on, Martha. We're going for the police.
All right. The police? You can't go for the police.
Why not?
Because if you tell the police about Mr. Spinalzo, they'd find Mr. Hoskins too. And that might make them curious, and they'd find out about your other 12 gentlemen.
Well, Mortimer, we know the police better than you do. I don't think they'd pry into our private affairs if we asked them not to.
But if they found your 12 gentlemen, they'd have to report back to headquarters.
Well, I'm not so sure they'd bother, because they'd have to make out a very long report. And if there's one thing a policeman does not like to do, it's to write.
You can't count on that. It might leak out, and you couldn't expect a judge and jury to understand.
Oh, Judge Coleman would.
We know him very well.
He always comes to
church to pray, just before election. And he's coming here to tea someday. He's promised. Oh, Abby, we must speak to him about that again. His wife died a few years ago, and it's left him very lonely. Come along, Martha.
No, you can't do this. I will not let you. You cannot have Judge Coleman to tea.
Well, Mortimer, if you're not going to do something about this, then we are.
I am going to do something. We may have to call the police in later, but if we do, I want to be ready for you.
You need to get Jonathan out of this house. And Mr. Spinalzo, too.
Will you please let me do this my own way? I've got to see Teddy.
Well, Mortimer, if they're not out of here by morning, we're going to call the police.
They'll be out. I promise you that. Now go to bed, will you? And for God's sake, get out of those clothes. You look like a double blackout.
Well, that's relief, isn't it? Yes. If Mortimer's really going to do something about this, then Jonathan's going through a lot of unnecessary trouble. We'd better tell him. Oh, Jonathan, you might as well stop what you're doing.
It's all done. Did I hear Mortimer?
Well, it'll just have to be undone. You're going to be out of this house by morning. Mortimer's promised.
Oh, we are we? Well, in that case, you and Aunt Martha will run home and have a pleasant night's sleep.
Yes, come, Abby.
Good night, aunties.
Not good night, Jonathan. Goodbye. By the time we're up in the morning, you'll be out of this house. Mortimer's promised. And he has a way of doing it, too.
Mortimer is back, then?
Oh, yes. He's upstairs talking to Teddy. Goodbye, Jonathan. Goodbye, Jonathan.
Perhaps you'd better say goodbye to Mortimer.
Oh, you'll see Mortimer.
Yes, I'll see Mortimer.
Phew, that's all fixed up. Smooth like a lake. Nobody'd ever know we were down there. Come on, Johnny, let's go to bed, eh?
You're forgetting, Doctor.
What?
My brother Mortimer.
Johnny, tonight? We'll do that tomorrow or the next day.
No, tonight! Now!
But Johnny, I'm tired. And tomorrow I gotta operate.
Yes, you're operating tomorrow, Doctor. But tonight you take care of Mortimer.
But Johnny...
Doctor, look at my face. You can see it's gonna be done, can't you?
I know that look.
It's a little too late for us to dissolve our partnership.
All right, we do it. But the quick way. Like the quick twist in London.
Doctor, no. I think this calls for something a little more special. Perhaps the Melbourne method.
No, not Melbourne. 2 hours. And what? When it was all over, the fellow in London was just as dead as the fellow in Melbourne.
We had to work too fast in London. There was no aesthetic satisfaction. But Melbourne. Now there was something to remember, Doctor.
Remember? I wish I did. No, Johnny, not Melbourne. Not me.
Get your instruments, Doctor.
I won't do it, Johnny.
Get your instruments!
No.
Where are they? Oh, yes. You hid them in the cellar. Where?
I won't tell you.
I'll find them, Doctor.
I hear that, Mr. President, but I cannot send any proclamation without consulting my cabinet first. This must be a secret. A secret proclamation? How unusual. Japan mustn't know until it's signed. Japan! I'll sign it once. I can let my cabinet know later.
Yes, let's go and sign it.
You wait here. A secret proclamation must be signed in secret.
But at once, Mr. President.
I'll have to get my signing clothes on.
But have your signing clothes on.
It appears I do.
You're going now, eh? No, Doctor. I'm waiting for something. Something important. Please, you must go. Dr. Einstein, I have nothing against you personally. You seem to be a nice fellow. Take my advice. Get out of this house. Just as far away as possible.
Trouble, yeah. Get out.
All right. Don't say I didn't warn you.
I'm warning you. Get away, quick.
Things are going to start popping around here any minute.
Look, Johnny's in a bad mood. When he's like this, things happen.
Jonathan doesn't worry me now.
Himmel. Don't those plays teach you anything?
About what?
At least the people in plays act like they got sense. That's more than you do.
Oh, you think so, do you? You think people in plays act intelligently? I wish you had to sit through some of the ones I have to sit through. Take this little opus I saw tonight, for instance. In this play, there's a man. He's supposed to be bright. He knows he's in a house of murderers. He ought to know he's in danger. He's even been warned to get out of the house. But does he go? No, he stays there. Now I ask you, Doctor, is that what an intelligent person would do?
You're asking me?
He didn't. To be frightened. To be on guard. For instance, the murderer invites him to sit down.
You mean... Won't you sit down?
Believe it or not, that one was in there too.
And what did he do?
He sat down. Now mind you, this fellow's supposed to be bright. So there he sits, just waiting to be trussed up. And what do you think they used to tie him with?
What?
The curtain cord.
Well, why not? Very convenient.
A little too convenient. When are the playwrights going to use some imagination? The curtain cord.
He didn't see him get it.
See him? He sat there with his back to him. And that's the kind of stuff we have to suffer through night after night. And they say the critics are killing the theater. It's the playwrights who are killing the theater. So there he sits, the big dome. This fellow who's supposed to be bright, just waiting to be trussed up and gagged.
You're right about one thing. That fella, he wasn't very bright.
And now, my dear Mortimer, we'll finish the story. You know, Mortimer, I've been away 20 years, but never once in all that time were you out of my mind. In Melbourne one night, I dreamt of you. When I landed in San Francisco, I felt a strange satisfaction. Once again, you and I were in the same country. All right, Doctor, we go to work.
Please, Johnny, for me, the quick way.
Doctor, please. This really must be an artistic achievement. After all, we're performing before a very distinguished critic.
But Johnny...
Doctor?
All right, let's get this over with.
We go to work, Doctor.
I gotta have a drink first. I can't do this without a drink.
Pull yourself together, Doctor.
But I gotta have a drink. When we came in here this afternoon, there was wine. Where did she put that? That's all there is. I split it with you.
Doctor, please, where are your manners? Yes, Mortimer. I realize now that it was you who brought me back to Brooklyn. Doctor, to my dear dead brother.
My God!
That's that idiot. That's all. He goes next.
No! We don't get to Teddy. That's where I stop.
Get to Teddy later.
We don't get to Teddy at all.
Now we've got to work fast.
Yeah, the quick way, eh?
Yes, Doctor. The quick way.
The Colonel has got a good pull in that horn.
It's all right, officer. We're handled.
Well, there's going to be heck to pay in the morning. You promised the neighbors you wouldn't do that anymore.
We're taking it away. Good night, officer.
I'd better speak to him myself. Where are the lights? Hey, you stood me up. I waited over an hour at you and Kelly's. What happened to him?
He was explaining the play he saw tonight. Yeah, this is what happened to the fella in the play.
They had this in the play you saw tonight. Why, they practically stole that from the second act of my play. Why, in my second act, just before the... Oh, I've got to begin at the beginning. It starts out in my mother's dressing room, where I was born, only I ain't born yet. Oh, yeah. No, I've got to tell you the plot. So she's sitting there, making up, see, when all of a sudden, into the door, a man with a black mustache walks in. He turns to my mother and says, Miss Latour, will you marry me? So there she is, lying unconscious across the table in her lingerie. The guy is standing over her with a hatchet. I'm tied up in a chair, just like you are. The place is an inferno of flames. It's on fire. When all of a sudden, into the window comes Mayor LaGuardia. Hey, remember we paid for that. Go easy on it.
I'm listening, ain't I?
Well, how do you like it so far?
They put Johnny to sleep.
Hey, let him alone. If he ain't got no more interest in that, you don't get it. So it's 3 days later. I've been transferred and I'm under charges. That's because somebody stole my badge. Anyway, I'm walking my beat on Staten Island, 46th precinct. When a guy I'm following, it turns out, is really following me. Don't let anybody in! So I figure out smart. There's a vacant house on the corner. I goes in.
Johnny, it's cops.
I stands there in the dark, and I sees the door handle turn.
It's cops, Johnny.
I pulls my gun. Well, back when they let me have a gun. Braces myself against the wall and says, "Come in." Hello, boys.
What the heck is going on here?
Hey, Pat. What do you know? This is Mortimer Brewster. He's gonna write my play with me. I was just telling him the story.
Did you have to tie him up to make him listen?
Joe, you better report him at the station. The whole force is out looking for you.
Did they send you here for me?
We didn't know he was here.
We came to warn the old ladies that there's heck to pay. The colonel blew the bugle in the middle of the night.
By the way the neighbors been calling in about it, you'd think the Germans had dropped a bomb on Flatbush Avenue.
Lieutenant's on the warpath. She says Teddy has to be put away someplace.
Yes, yes. Gee, Mr. Brewster, I gotta be running along, so I'll just run to the third act quick.
Get away.
Say, do you know what time it is? It's after 8 o'clock in the morning.
It is? Gee, Mr. Brewster, I know the first and second act went a little long. I don't see anything we can cut out.
You can leave it all out. Who the heck is this guy?
That's my brother, Jonathan.
The one that ran away? So, he came back.
Yes, he came back.
This is Brophy. Get me Mac. We better let him know we found you, Joe. Yeah, this is Brophy. Yeah, we found him. The Brewster house. You want us to bring him in? All right. Tenant's on her way over.
So I've been turned in, huh? I suppose you and that stool pigeon brother of mine are gonna split the reward.
Reward?
Now I'll do a little turning in. You think my aunts are such sweet, charming old ladies? Well, there's 13 bodies buried down in the cellar.
Teddy! Teddy!
What are you talking about?
You better watch what you say about your aunts. They have to be friends of ours.
I'll prove it to you. Come into the cellar with me.
Wait a minute, wait a minute.
13 bodies.
Oh, yeah?
Better go down into the cellar.
I'm not so sure you want to be down in the cellar with him. Look at that puss. He looks like Boris Karloff. Hey, get off me! What are you doing? Hey! Well, what do you know about that?
Come in.
What the heck are you two men here? I told you I was going to handle this.
You see, Lieutenant, we was just about to...
What happened? Did he put up a fight?
This ain't the guy that blows the bugle. This is his brother. He tried to kill Klein.
All I said was he looked like Boris Karloff.
Turn him over.
We kind of think he's wanted somewhere.
Oh, you kind of think he's wanted somewhere? If you guys don't read the circulars we hang up in the station, at least you could read the True Detective. Certainly he's wanted somewhere. In Indiana. Escape for criminal insane. He's a lifer, for God's sake. He looked like Karloff.
Was there a reward mentioned?
Yeah, and I'm claiming it.
He was trying to get us down into the cellar.
He said there were 13 bodies buried down there.
13 bodies buried in the cellar? And that didn't tip you off? He came out of a nut house.
I thought all along you talked kind of crazy.
Oh, it's Shakespeare. Where have you been all night and you needn't bother to tell me?
I've been right here, man. Writing a play with Mortimer Brewster.
Yeah, well, you're gonna have plenty of time to write that play. You're suspended. Now get back and report it.
Could I stop by sometime and use the station typewriter?
No! Get out of here! Take that guy somewhere else and bring him too. See what you can find out about his accomplice. He's the guy that helped him escape. He's wanted too. No wonder Brooklyn's in the shape it's in, with a police force full of flatheads like you, falling for that kind of story. 13 bodies buried in a cellar?
But there are 13 bodies buried in the cellar.
Who are you?
I'm President Roosevelt. Dear me, another yellow fever victim? All the bodies in the cellar are yellow fever victims.
No. This is a spy we caught in the White House.
Will you get that guy out of here?
If there's any questioning of spies, that's my department.
You keep out of this.
You're forgetting. As president, I'm also head of the Secret Service.
Captain, I'm Mortimer Brewster.
Are you sure?
I'd like to talk to you about my brother, Teddy, the one who blows the bugle.
Mr. Brewster, we ain't going to talk about that. He's got to be put away.
I quite agree with you. In fact, it's all arranged for. I had his commitment papers signed by Dr. Gilchrist, our family physician. I've signed them as next of kin, and Teddy has signed them himself.
Where is he going?
Happy Day.
All right, I don't care where he goes, just as long as he goes.
Oh, he's going all right. But I want you to know that everything that's happened around here, Teddy's responsible for. Now, those 13 bodies in the cellar,
Yeah, those 13 bodies in the cellar. It ain't enough that the neighbors are all afraid of him and him disturbing the peace with the bugle, but can you imagine what would happen if that cockeyed story about the 13 bodies got around and now he's starting a yellow fever scare? Oh, cute, ain't it?
13 bodies, who would believe that story?
Well, you can't tell. Some people are just dumb enough. You don't know what to believe sometimes. About a year ago, some crazy guy starts a murder rumor over in Greenpoint, and I had to dig up a half-acre lot just to prove that.
Will you excuse me?
Good morning, Mortimer.
Good morning, dear.
This is Mr. Witherspoon. He's come to meet Teddy.
To meet Teddy?
Mr. Witherspoon is the superintendent of Happydale.
Oh, come right in. This is Captain...
Lieutenant Bruce, I'm glad you're here, Super, because you're taking him home with you today.
Today?
Not today.
Look, Elaine, you've run along home, and I'll call you up tomorrow.
I have no idea is this immediate.
The papers are all signed. Go today.
Complete insubordination. You men will find I'm no mollycoddle when the President of the United States is treated like that. What is this country coming to?
There's your man, Super.
Just a minute. Mr. President, I have very good news for you. Your term of office is over.
Is it March the 4th?
Practically.
Let's see. Oh, now I go on my hunting trip to Africa. I must get started at once. Is he trying to move to the White House before I moved out? Taft!
This is Mr. Witherspoon. He's to be your guide in Africa.
Bully! I'll get my stuff right away. When the safari comes, tell them I'll be right down. Aunt Abby, Aunt Martha, I'm on my way to Africa. Isn't that wonderful? Charge!
Good morning, darlings.
We have visitors.
Yes, Lieutenant Rooney is here.
Oh, how do you do, Lieutenant? My, you don't look like the fuss budget the police would say you are.
The lieutenant is here. You know, Teddy blew his bugle again last night.
We were going to talk to him about that.
It's a little more serious than that, Miss Brewster.
And you haven't met Mr. Witherspoon. He's the superintendent of Happydale.
How do you do, Mr. Witherspoon? You've come to meet Teddy.
He's come to take him.
Aunties, the police want Teddy to go there today.
Oh, no, not while we're alive.
I'm sorry, ladies, but it has to be done. The papers are all signed, and he's going along with the superintendent.
Well, if he goes, we are going too. Yes, you'll have to take us with him.
Well, why not?
That's sweet of them to want to, but you see, it's impossible. We can't take sane people at Happydale.
Well, Mr. Witherspoon, if you'll allow us to live there with Teddy, we'll see that Happydale is in our will for a very generous amount.
Well, the Lord knows we can use the money, but I'm afraid.
Now, let's be sensible about this, ladies. For instance, here I am, wasting my morning, when I've got serious work to do. You know, there still are murders to be solved in Brooklyn.
Yes! Oh, are there?
He ain't only his bugle blowing, and the neighbors all afraid of him, but things would just get worse. Sooner or later, we'd be put to the trouble of digging up your cellar.
Our cellar?
Yeah, your nephew's been telling around that there are 13 bodies in your cellar.
Oh, but there are 13 bodies in our cellar. If that's the reason why you think Teddy has to go, you just come along with us and we'll prove
She was telling me that just last year she had to dig up a half-acre lot. Weren't you, Lieutenant?
That's right.
Well, you wouldn't have to dig here. The graves are all marked. We put flowers on them every Sunday.
Superintendent, don't you think you have room for these ladies?
Well,
Well, you just come along with us and we'll show you just where the graves
I'll
are.
take your word for it, lady. I'm a busy woman. Well, how about it, Super?
well, they'd have to be committed.
Teddy committed himself. Couldn't they commit themselves? Couldn't they sign the papers?
Why, certainly.
Where are the papers? If it means we can go with Teddy, we'll sign.
Yes, where are they?
He's coming around, Lieutenant.
Oh, good morning, Officer Klein.
Good morning, Officer Klein. Are you here too? Yeah, me and Brophy have got your other nephew out in the kitchen.
Well, sign them up, Superintendent. I want to get this all cleaned up.
If you'll sign right here, and you here, Aunt Abby.
I'm really looking forward to going. The neighborhood here has changed so.
Yes, just think, a front lawn again.
Oh, we're overlooking something.
What?
You see, we're going to need a signature of a doctor.
Well, Dr. Einstein, will you come over here? We'd like you to sign some papers.
Please, I must.
Just come right over, Doctor. At one time last night, I thought the doctor was going to operate on me. Just come right over, Doctor. Just sign right here.
Where are you leaving, Doctor?
I think I must go.
Aren't you going to wait for Jonathan?
I don't think we're going to the same place.
Hello, Elaine. Glad to see you. Stick around, huh?
Don't worry, I'm going to. Hello, Mac, Rudy. Now, we picked up the guy that's wanted in Indiana. Now, there's a description of his accomplice on the desk right there. Read it to me. About 54 by 6'6", 140 pounds, talks with an accent, poses as a doctor. All right, thanks, Mac.
That's right, Lieutenant. The doctor here's just completed signatures.
Thanks, Dad. You're really doing great.
Mr. Brewster, you sign now as next of kin.
Of course. Right here?
Yes.
This makes everything complete. Everything legal?
Why, yes.
Well, aunties, now you're safe.
When do you think you'll be ready to start?
Well, Mr. Witherspoon, why don't you go upstairs and tell Teddy just what he can bring along?
Upstairs?
I can show you.
No, Mortimer, you stay here. We want to talk to you. Yes, Mr. Witherspoon, just upstairs and to the left.
Well, Mortimer, we're moving now, and this house is yours.
Yes, we want you to live here now.
No, Aunt Abby, this house is too full of memories.
A home when you and Elaine are married.
Darlings, that's very indefinite.
It's nothing of the kind. We're going to be married right away.
Mortimer, we're really very worried about something.
Now, aunties, you're going to love it at Happydale.
We know, dear, that's just it. We don't want anything to go wrong.
You see, you signed as next of kin, dear.
Of course. Why not?
Well, dear, it's something we never wanted to tell you. But you're a man now, and it's something Elaine should know too. You see, dear, you're not really a Brewster.
Your mother came to us as a cook, and you were born about 3 months afterward. But she was such a sweet woman and such a good cook that we didn't want to lose her. So brother married her.
I'm not really a Brewster?
Now, don't feel too badly about it, dear.
And Elaine, it won't make any difference to you?
Elaine, did you hear? Do you understand? I'm not a Brewster!
Well, I really must see about breakfast.
Mortimer's coming over to my house. Father's gone to Philadelphia, and Mortimer and I are going to have breakfast together.
Yes, I could use some coffee. I've had quite a night.
Well, in that case, I should think you'd want to go to bed.
I do.
One moment, Witherford. Take these with you.
I'll need a wagon. My car's out front.
Are you leaving now, Jonathan?
Yeah, he's going back to Indiana. There's some people there that want to take good care of him for the rest of his life. Come on.
Well, Jonathan, we're glad to know you have someplace to go.
youngsters.
Unless Mortimer wants to live here.
I have an idea. Why don't you give it to the church?
Well, we never thought of that.
After all, it should be part of the cemetery.
All right,
Well, my dear aunties, I can't better my score now. Then again, neither can you. At least I have that small satisfaction. The score stands even, 12 to 12.
Jonathan always was a mean boy. Never could stand to see anyone get ahead of him. I just wish we could show him he isn't so smart. Mr. Witherspoon, does your family live with you at Happydale?
I have no family.
But I suppose you consider everyone at Happydale part of your family?
I'm afraid you don't quite understand. You see, as head of the institution, I have to keep quite aloof.
Well, that must make it very lonely for you.
It does, but my duty is my duty.
Well, Martha, if Mr. Witherspoon won't join us for breakfast, I do think we ought to offer him a glass of wine.
Wine?
It's elderberry wine. We make it ourselves.
Elderberry wine? Why, yes. Of course, at Happydale, our relationship will be much more formal. But here, you don't see much elderberry wine nowadays. I thought I had my last glass.
Oh, no. No, here it is.
I've signed them as next of kin, and Teddy has signed them himself.
Where's he going?
Happydale.
All right, I don't care where he goes, just as long as he goes.
Oh, he's going all right. But I want you to know that everything that's happened around here, Teddy's responsible for. Now, those 13 bodies in the cellar,
Yeah, those 13 bodies in the cellar. It ain't enough that the neighbors are all afraid of him, and him disturbing the peace with the bugle, but can you imagine what would happen if that cockeyed story about the 13 bodies got around, and now he's starting a yellow fever scare? Oh, cute, ain't it?
13 bodies? Who would believe that story?
Well, you can't tell. Some people are just dumb enough. You don't know what to believe sometimes. About a year ago, some crazy guy starts a murder rumor over in Greenpoint, and I had to dig up a half-acre lot just to prove that.
Will you excuse me?
Good morning, Mortimer.
Good morning, dear.
This is Mr. Witherspoon. He's come to meet Teddy.
To meet Teddy?
Mr. Witherspoon is the superintendent of Happydale.
Oh, come right in. This is Captain...
Lieutenant Bruce, I'm glad you're here, Super, because you're taking him with you today.
Today?
Not today.
Look, Elaine, you've run along home, and I'll call you up tomorrow.
My idea is this immediate.
The papers are all signed. Go today.
Complete insubordination. You men will find I'm no mollycoddle when the President of the United States is treated like that. What is this country coming to?
There's your man, Super.
Just a minute. Mr. President, I have very good news for you. Your term of office is over.
Is it March the 4th?
Practically.
Let's see. Oh, now I go on my hunting trip to must get started at once. Is he trying to move to the White House before I moved out? Taft!
This is Mr. Witherspoon.
He's to be your guide in Africa. Bully, bully! I'll get my stuff right away. When the safari comes, tell him I'll be right down. Aunt Abby, Aunt Martha, I'm on my way to Africa. Isn't that wonderful? Charge!
Good morning, darlings.
We have visitors.
Yes, Lieutenant Rooney is here.
Oh, how do you do, Lieutenant? My, you don't look like the fuss budget the police would say you are.
The lieutenant is here. You know, Teddy blew his bugle again last night.
We were going to talk to him about that.
It's a little more serious than that, Miss Brewster.
And you haven't met Mr. Witherspoon. He's the superintendent of Happydale.
How do you do, Mr. Witherspoon? You've come to meet Teddy.
He's come to take him.
Aunties, the police want Teddy to go there today.
Oh, no, not while we're alive.
I'm sorry, ladies, but it has to be done. The papers are all signed, and he's going along with the superintendent.
Well, if he goes, we are going too. Yes, you'll have to take us with him.
Well, why not?
It's sweet of them to want to, but you see, it's impossible. We can't take sane people in Happydale.
Well, Mr. Witherspoon, if you'll allow us to live there with Teddy, we'll see that Happydale is in our will for a very generous amount.
Well, the Lord knows we can use the money. But I'm afraid.
Now, let's be sensible about this, ladies. For instance, here I am, wasting my mornings, and I've got serious work to do. You know, there still are murders to be solved in Brooklyn.
Yes! Oh, are there?
He ain't only his bugle blown, and the neighbors all afraid of him, but things would just get worse. Sooner or later, we'd be put to the trouble of digging up your cellar.
Our cellar?
Yeah, your nephew's been telling around that there are 13 bodies in your cellar.
Oh, but there are 13 bodies in our cellar. If that's the reason why you think Teddy has to go, you just come along with us and we'll prove it to you. There's one, Mr. Spinalzo, who doesn't belong there, who had to go. But the other 12 are our gentlemen.
I don't think the lieutenant wants to go down there. She was telling me that just last year she had to dig up a half-acre lot. Weren't you, Lieutenant?
That's right.
Well, you wouldn't have to dig here. The graves are all marked. We put flowers on them every Sunday.
Superintendent, don't you think you have room for these ladies?
Well,
Well, you just come along with us and we'll show you just where the graves
I'll
are.
take your word for it, lady. I'm a busy woman. Well, how about it, Super?
well, they'd have to be committed.
Teddy committed himself. Couldn't they commit themselves? Couldn't they sign the papers?
Why, certainly.
Where are the papers? If it means we can go with Teddy, we'll sign. Yes, where are they?
He's coming around, Lieutenant.
Oh, good morning, Officer Klein. Good morning, Officer Klein. Are you here too?
Yeah, me and Brophy have got your other nephew out in the kitchen.
Well, sign them up, Superintendent. I want to get this all cleaned up.
If you'll sign right here, and you here, Aunt Abby.
I'm really looking forward to going. The neighborhood here has changed so. Yes, just think, a fun lawn again.
Oh, we're overlooking something.
What?
You see, we're going to need a signature of a doctor. Oh. Well, Dr. Einstein,
Will you come over here? We'd like you to sign some papers.
Please, I must.
Just come right over, Doctor. At one time last night, I thought the doctor was going to operate on me. Just come right over, Doctor. Just sign right here.
Where are you leaving, Doctor?
I think I must go.
Aren't you going to wait for Jonathan?
I don't think we're going to the same place.
Hello, Elaine. Glad to see you. Stick around, huh?
Don't worry, I'm going to. Hello, Mac, Rudy. Now, we picked up the guy that's wanted in Indiana. Now, there's a description of his accomplice on the desk right there. Read it to me. About 54, 5'6", 140 pounds, talks with an accent, poses as a doctor. All right, thanks, Mac.
That's right, Lieutenant. The doctor who's just completed signatures.
Thanks, Dad. You're really doing great.
Mr. Brewster, you sign now as next of kin.
Of course. Right here?
Yes.
this makes everything complete. Everything legal?
Why, yes.
Well, aunties, now you're safe.
When do you think you'll be ready to start?
Well, Mr. Witherspoon, why don't you go upstairs and tell Teddy just what he can bring along?
Upstairs?
I can show you.
No, Mortimer. You stay here. We want to talk to you. Yes, Mr. Witherspoon, just upstairs and to the left.
Well, Mortimer, we're moving now, and this house is yours.
Yes, we want you to live here now.
No, Aunt Tabby, this house is too full of memories.
Oh, when you and Elaine are married.
Darlings, that's very indefinite.
It's nothing of the kind. We're going to be married right away.
Mortimer, we're really very worried about something.
Now, aunties, you're going to love it at Happydale.
We know, dear, that's just it. We don't want anything to go wrong.
You see, you signed as next of kin, dear.
Of course. Why not?
Well, dear, it's something we never wanted to tell you. But you're a man now, and it's something Elaine should know too. You see, dear, you're not really a Brewster.
Your mother came to us as a cook, and you were born about 3 months afterward. But she was such a sweet woman and such a good cook that we didn't want to lose her. So brother married her.
I'm not really a Brewster?
Now, don't feel too badly about it, dear.
And Elaine, it won't make any difference to you?
Elaine, did you hear? Do you understand? I'm not a Brewster!
Well, I really must see about breakfast.
Mortimer's coming over to my house. Father's gone to Philadelphia, and Mortimer and I are going to have breakfast together.
Yes, I could use some coffee. I've had quite a night.
Well, in that case, I should think you'd want to go to bed.
I do.
One moment, Witherford. Take these with you.
Need a wagon. My car's out front.
Are you leaving now, Jonathan?
Yeah, he's going back to Indiana. There's some people there that want to take good care of him for the rest of his life. Come on.
Well, Jonathan, we're glad to know you have someplace to go.
We're leaving too.
Yes, we're going to Happydale.
Then this house has seen the last of the Brewsters.
Unless Mortimer wants to live here.
I have an idea. Why don't you give it to the church?
Well, we never thought of that.
After all, it should be part of the cemetery.
All right, get going.
Well, my dear aunties, I can't better my score now. Then again, neither can you. At least I have that small satisfaction. The score stands even, 12 to 12.
Jonathan always was a mean boy. Never could stand to see anyone get ahead of him.
I just wish we could show him he isn't so smart. Mr. Witherspoon, does your family live with you at Happydale?
I have no family.
But I suppose you consider everyone at Happydale part of your family.
I'm afraid you don't quite understand. You see, as head of the institution, I have to keep quite aloof.
Well, that must make it very lonely for you.
It does, but my duty is my duty.
Well, Martha, if Mr. Witherspoon won't join us for breakfast, I do think we ought to offer him a glass of wine.
Wine?
It's elderberry wine. We make it ourselves.
Elderberry wine? Why, yes. Of course, at Happydale, our relationship will be much more formal. But here, you don't see much elderberry wine nowadays. I thought I had my last glass.
Oh, no. No, here it is.